If you're new, I'm Erica. My husband Mark and I and our 3 kids live fully off-grid in Canada. We try to live a healthy and self-sufficient lifestyle, and that's what we share about in our videos. So I hope you'll subscribe to our channel. Being off-grid, there are certain things that we have to get done every single year before the cold weather really hits. And we live in Canada. It gets really, really cold and snowy here during the winter. So the first thing we are doing is draining our rain barrels and all of the lines connected to them, because if the water freezes in them, things are going to break. These lines run all over the property from the rain barrels. It's an awesome system. But if you saw our video, a couple videos back, where we used the skid steer for a week, we had rented one and prepared some land at the front of our cabin for an orchard next spring, we hadn't mentioned that Mark had accidentally dug up some of the line running down the hill. And so he had to dig it up from that point all the way back to the house so he could coil it up and keep it there, and then cut off the end that had gotten mangled by the skid steer, just so the water could freely flow out. So now he's going to the big rain barrel where it's all kept, opening it up to see how full it is. It's about 1/3 full at this point. So that'll all drain out down the hill where he cut that piece off by the cabin. The next thing to do is very small, but it's very necessary, and that is to set up our chicken water heater base so that the chickens have access to water. Now, through the summer months, we fill up the chicken water from this rain barrel, so we're taking the opportunity before it all gets drained to fill it up from that barrel before it's all gone. And then during the winter, we'll just have to fill up a bucket inside of the house and bring the water out to the chicken waterer. The nice thing about this base is that it only kicks on when it reaches a certain temperature. So if it's way above freezing, we're not going to be pulling and wasting power. This cheap little camping hammock gets so much usage in the summer, not so much by us adults, more so by the kids, and they use it as a swing. They love it. So that needs to get put away so it doesn't get wrecked, and it will be ready for another summer of fun. Getting everything ready for winter around the cabin, it's a busy but also really satisfying time of year. I love the feeling of being totally prepared for what's to come. And if you are wanting to feel more prepared heading into the colder months, especially when it comes to your energy, we've got Christmas and Thanksgiving coming up. These are busy times and we all need more energy. I would love to invite you to my free workshop where I share all about how to build your energy back up through really small, doable changes that are so small they aren't intimidating, but they will actually make a huge difference. So the link for that will be below. We discovered last year that the roost that was in the coop when we bought this property was not quite big enough, unfortunately, for the chickens. Some of them lost some toes, and I feel so bad about that. But so Mark is cutting a much bigger chunk of tree to put in there for the roost so that they can fully cover their feet with their feathers and stay warm, and hopefully we won't have any lost toes this winter.
All right, so this is the lid for our septic tank. That little silver bit is the septic discharge line. It is not trenched in. It just comes up the top and then runs along down through the trees and pumps out. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to rake up a whole bunch of leaves and cover it with leaves so it doesn't freeze in the winter. We had issues last winter with that, so we covered it with straw and some sticks, as well as wrapped that tin foil insulation all the way down it, along with a heat trace, just in case it gets super cold. This year I'll just be raking up leaves and covering it in leaves, and that should do the trick. And hopefully next year I will trench in a proper line that runs down the hill this way and out.
Luckily, we have an abundance of aspen trees all around our property, so there are plenty of leaves to rake up and put over the septic line. And we still had all of the straw on the line, except for in the spot where we had the lid because we had to access it multiple times. We had some other issues with the septic tank, or with the septic pump rather, earlier this year. It kept getting clogged up and wouldn't pump. So we purchased one that had a blade on the bottom that would kind of chew it up as it ran, and then we've had no problems since. Hide with me?
That's got to be either a very dumb or a very funny. You need to. Good job. Okay, let go. I'm going to dump it. Okay, come on.
One of the updates we made this year was putting this swing set and tire sandbox in, and so one thing we needed to do before winter is put away all the sand toys, get all the leaves out, and cover it so it stays nice and clean for next year. Most of our house is heated with wood stoves in the winter, but on the one side of our house, we don't have a wood stove, and we have a radiant heat furnace in the basement, so the heat just radiates up. That is fueled by propane, and every spring or summer, we turn it off so that the pilot light isn't burning propane for the whole time that we're not using it. And then Mark needs to light the pilot light again before winter when we start to need that radiant heat. It turned on no problem. However, there was a strange hissing sound that happened when we turned it on. So Mark inspected it further and discovered a propane leak. And so we had to order a replacement part, which was very annoying because we just bought this furnace last year. And of course, we're a little bit over past the 1-year warranty. So that's how it goes. We'll be sure to check it out in about 10 months from now. Make sure that that part is not failing again. So the rain barrel had finished draining out the one line, but there is a section here that goes off to the greenhouse. So I needed to drain that line as well. So I started draining into these watering cans, and then I realized I could just drain right into the greenhouse soil, so that's what I did after that. A very important part of our off-grid setup is our diesel generator. That is our main source of electricity in the winter months because we're up north in Canada. We have our solar panels, but they don't give us a lot in the winter. So Mark is filling up the diesel tank with diesel that he brought in his slip tank in his truck, and then we'll be set to go for quite a while. I've got quite the noisy baby sleeping in my arms, so those are those little noises that you're hearing. Last winter, Mark put up this pipe along the side of the lean-to so that he could just pump the diesel right through down into the diesel tank, whereas before he had to fill up jerry cans and go back and forth carrying diesel a little bit at a time. So this is a much more efficient way, and I'll link that video here where he set this all up. If you are interested in seeing more of how we prepare for winter, we did a few videos on that last year. I'll link them below. And we have another firewood video coming up where we finish up our firewood preparations for the year. So look forward to that one. Thanks as always for watching. We make a new video every week about our off-grid life. So I hope you'll subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.